Mr Baker.
Thank you. Would you, as part of a clarification of your statement, indicate whether the House of Commons Commission will be tonight considering the earlier release of all information, which I believe has been all members' interest, rather than dragging this matter out until July? And
Well, can I say to the Honourable Gentleman, please have a seat, that I did say that in the statement, perhaps if he was reading his statement. The House of Commons Commission, by the way, another individual member who is keen to say to the press whatever the press wants to hear, has said that the House of Commons Commission has done nothing. Just remember this, it was only a year ago, on the 3rd of July, less than a year ago, that the House of Commons Commission put a report before this House. And some of the problems that we've got today, they were looked at in that report and were rejected. So it's wrong for the Honourable Gentleman to say that the House of Commons has done nothing. I just make that point. But I answered it in the statement anyway.
Mr Speaker, if the Commission is looking at the possible earlier release of the information, can I be assured that we will all keep our heads and recognise that at the moment honourable members are going through many thousands of sheets of paper? I have today sent to the Fees Office many sheets asking for corrections which consist of nothing more esoteric than the removal of a credit card number, the removal of private individuals' names and addresses, making it clear where something has not been claimed. I have done that today. If that is multiplied across this House, there is a huge task. Can I ask that we do keep our heads and not be driven by what is happening?
What I say to the Honourable Gentleman, the Honourable Lady, the Right Honourable Lady, forgive me, the Right Honourable Lady, is that I'm very, very aware that at the moment that honourable members are looking at the information that's on those documents, and they have a right to protect not only themselves but their staffs and their families, and matters like bank accounts and cheques are sometimes and those items have been replicated in the so-called disc that's doing the rounds. The Honourable Gentleman, Mr Mann.
Mr Speaker, on the 3rd of July last year, the House unanimously passed a resolution relating to capital gains tax and second homes. Will the Commission tonight be looking at what has happened to enact that resolution?
I'll make sure that happens. Mr Howarth.
Mr Speaker, on another matter, yet again the centre of our capital city has been brought to a standstill.
I'm taking points of order on this statement. The Right Honourable Lady.
Mr Speaker, deplorable though it is that private information relating to honourable members and our staff has been offered as a leak or possibly for sale to members of the press, we clearly cannot blame the media for the situation that we find ourselves in. And I wonder whether, when the House of Commons Commission meets this evening, you would consider adding to what you're already doing a rather different approach. Because it is the public who elect us and pay for us, would you and the Commission consider establishing citizens' juries, as they're called, one perhaps for each region, to consider the matter both of our salaries and of...
Order. I think it's clear it's time for me to move on. Sir Allen.
Mr Speaker, I wonder if I could just clear up a different point which you made in your... I wonder if we could just clear up a different point which emerges from your statement. It's been suggested in some quarters that the use of an outside body to check the receipts and the auditing, which seems to me a desirable thing to do, would in some way exempt those provisions from the Freedom of Information Act. My assumption is that that is simply not the case, and I wonder if you've been advised accordingly and could confirm that.
Well, what I say is that there is no intention of any action that we take will inadvertently or otherwise allow the freedom of information not to go out. I hope that is of help to the Right Honourable Gentleman. Now, I move on. Did the Honourable Gentleman wish to...
Mr Speaker, on a point of order, yet again our capital city has been brought to a standstill by a bunch of demonstrators who have now effectively occupied Parliament Square for about 6 weeks. I've raised this matter with you before, and whilst it has been true that members have had access, albeit not to the main entrance of this House, we've had restricted access, Nevertheless, there are hundreds of thousands of people out there going about their business who've had their business lives and their personal lives disrupted by this demonstration at enormous cost to them and their businesses, as well as to the inconvenience. I know that the Metropolitan Police Commissioner
Commons there and Gerald Howarth making a point of order on a different matter. But let us get some reaction to the statement that we have heard from the Speaker, Michael Martin. Our political correspondent, Carol Walker, was listening to it in Westminster. Carol, he really rounded on anyone who didn't quite agree with the approach that he was taking. Kate Hoey and Norman Baker got both barrels.
That's right. Michael Martin was defending the decision to call in the police to look at who has leaked the information which has found its way onto the pages of the Telegraph over the last few days. He was absolutely furious with Kate Hoey, saying that it was very easy for her to appear on radio stations late at night and spout her views, as he put it. He had a similar, very short shrift to Norman Baker, the Liberal Democrat who's campaigned on this. What the Speaker was saying was that it was unacceptable for confidential details, including signatures, addresses, passwords, ex-directory telephone numbers and so on, to be available and to have effectively been touted around by an individual. He was furious about that. Just to remind people of the other things that the Speaker announced today, he did say that there would be this operational assurance unit, as he called it, which is an independent body that is going to check expenses. He gave an assurance that having an independent body in like that would not necessarily mean that the Freedom of Information Act would not operate. And furthermore, he announced that the House of Commons Commissioner Select Committee of the House of Commons is going to meet this evening and decide what should happen about the rest of the information that, if you like, the Telegraph hasn't printed yet, because the reason we've got all this stuff is because the full details of MPs' expenses were already being collated by the Commons authorities for release under a Freedom of Information request in July. They're now looking at whether to bring forward that whole process in the light of what's coming out bit by bit in the Telegraph, and that's what's going to be decided at tonight's meeting. OK,
Carol Walker there at Westminster. Thank you very much for that.
Going to take you to real matters of state importance now. Katie Price and Peter Andre have separated after 4.5 years of marriage.